right between First Avenue South and East Marginal Way. We'll take a break, come back. A special event coming up on Monday in the world of high school football in the state. We'll also hear from Michael Bennett, former Seahawk. He's on the morning show today. Interesting comments about the tradition and culture in Seattle. All that coming up on 93.3 KJR FM.
Talk it over.
Now back to Football Friday with Ian Furness. Proudly brought to you by Bud Light on your home for the 12th man in the NFL.
Ladies and gentlemen, need we say more?
Sports Radio 93.3 KJR FM.
And back here in the Bay Area, Furness with you on a Bud Light Football Friday. By the way, Sports Radio 93.3 KJR FM has you covered on all things NFL playoffs. Coverage presented by the Tulalip Resort Casino, DraftKings Sportsbooks at Tulalip Resort Casino, and the Quill Cedar Creek Casino as well. We're going to take just a couple-minute break from the NFL playoffs. Because coming up on Monday, it's a holiday. It's MLK Day, and a lot of people have the day off. There's a lot of great events going on around town. Kraken are playing at 1 o'clock, I believe, at Climate Pledge. Down at Showware, there's a big basketball tournament that Puck and Jim are going to be at for high school kids. I would just say if you have the day off and you get a chance, go support some of the local things going on, especially those high school tournaments. But I would urge you to head on out to Pop Keeney Stadium, because coming up on Monday, 2 games, 1 o'clock, 5 o'clock, Cleats versus Cancer. It's the state all-star high school football games, plural. And it was founded back in 2018 by Derek Sparks, a former Washington State University running back who also coached at Pacific Lutheran University and Kennedy Catholic. And just a quick conversation on that and tell you how important this is for so many reasons. Joining me on the Beacon Plumbing Hotline is the head football coach at PLU, Brant McAdams. Brant, how are you today?
I'm great, Ian, man. How are you?
I'm good. First of all, congratulations on you and the Lutes. Email, every man's a Loot. Go Lutes, on a heck of a football season for you guys this year.
Thank you. This was the senior class was the group that kind of came in after our first full recruiting cycle and invested, stuck it out, persisted. And so it was great to see them, be a part of the program kind of turning the corner in the win-loss column.
And I believe I saw your quarterback play in person for the first time at a Cleats versus Cancer event a few years ago. I mentioned it was founded in 2018 by Derek Sparks. Derek's founded this game, and now it's 2 games, because his daughter Zelie had cancer. She had leukemia in 2018. Derek wanted to do something to help raise money for families who could benefit from some extra money as their families battled cancer along the way. And then, sadly, Derek also was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer a couple of years ago and died in November of 2021. Tell people, because he coached with you, you knew him well, and you're heavily involved with this football game, as am I. Tell people about who and what Derek Sparks was all about.
Yeah. So, when I got the job, I got a lot of resumes. I got a lot of emails, and Derek's resume stood out, not because he was a standout football player, but because in his years after, he used his platform, his time, his energy, his resources to center community, and that's something that I knew would vibe and align and resonate, at our university and our football program. The number of different, outreaches, he's put together, right? A lot of entrepreneurs, right? They go out and they jump into it and they learn from, failure and then, keep growing. And on his resume, you saw, a bunch of different ways to outreach and impact youth, and especially at-risk youth. And then, all of a sudden, kind of cancer and the battle with cancer, impacts his family. Derek came on staff, in March, April of 2018. A couple of months after I got there, and and so he just said, hey, here's where I'm at, here's where my heart's at, and I just said, okay, let's make sure that this, follows NCAA compliance, but man, you've got an opportunity to positively impact, football in the state of Washington, right, creating more opportunities for kids to get exposure, right, and then just to celebrate, high-performing student athletes, football players in the state of Washington, and then raise money for families impacted by cancer. And obviously that was something, close to him, and then to see, Zaylee go into remission and that be a huge success story. And then the, Cleats versus Cancer continued to grow with showcases, through COVID, and then the game, continue to grow and double into 2 games. Right. And then all of a sudden, it hits him personally and in one of the hardest ways, symptoms, showing up in July of 21, diagnosis in early August 21, and the reminder that life is precious, when he passed away in November of 21.
And thankfully people like yourself, Keith Ross, and certainly Angie and Jessica Sparks and others are keeping this thing going. And it's even bigger than it's ever been, to help raise money for cancer and those who have and families with cancer. But on top of that, you mentioned it. Before we let you go, Brant, who plays in this game? Because for me, I think the coolest thing is so many high school football players who maybe don't have a place to play yet get a chance to showcase their skills one more time. Many of them already have committed to going to a school somewhere, and they still want to get on the high school field one more time, or maybe this will be the final game they ever play. So who will we see on Monday?
You're going to see some of the best football players in the state of Washington, and then in years past they've had 1 or 2 outliers from kind of surrounding states. With the transfer portal the way that it is, high school recruitment, has been impacted a little bit, and so the D2 NAI and Division III recruiting timelines are always going to be behind the full scholarship Division I timeline, and so some of these kids are going to get a partial scholarship offer from a D2 or an NAI school, that stops by and watches a practice and gets to meet a kid in person and gets to, see a lot of kids at one place, and then the same from the game, and then Division III schools, kids, maybe pop up on the radar or move up, the recruiting list for that Division III school because they got a chance to watch them, practice in person or play in the game in person. So it's something that I think is awesome, and then seeing Washington high school football coaches get behind it, just further, reinforces that this is something really, really good for the state of Washington.
Referees Association also behind it. In fact, the referees, the officials for that game, many of them are cancer survivors themselves, and the same guy's been doing it for every year, which is awesome. Jeff and his crew out there, and there's going to be a ton of college. I think now because of the date and everything else, I'm hearing there's a lot more college coaches scouting the game on Monday, which is a blast. I'm sure I know on your roster, you've got a number of Cleats versus Cancer alums. My son, who played against you guys this year, he was a Cleat versus Cancer alum. Actually started as a volunteer and was lucky enough to get to be invited to play in the game. And I know it's something he treasures along with some of his teammates over at Whitworth. And so it's going to be cool. It's going to be a great event at Pop Keeney, the best setting for high school football in the state on Monday. I look forward to seeing you out there. And folks, you can go to Cleats versus Cancer, cleatsvscancer.com for ticket information. Go support. Come on out. Brant, thanks so much for keeping this thing going, and I'll see you Monday, and we'll see you out there. I might be wearing my Whitworth gear if that's okay. Is that all right with you?
That's all right. If you need, I can bring you a loot sweater. But Ian, thank you to you. This thing doesn't grow without a platform and a voice, and so you continuing to be the voice and helping champion this cause has gone a long way. So thank you.
I really appreciate it. Thanks, Brant. We'll see you on Monday. That's Brant McAdams. He is the head coach at PLU. Cleats versus Cancer coming up on Monday. Pop Keeney, 1 and 5 o'clock. Get out to one of those games. Go watch some of these best high school players in the state play. It's a lot of fun. All right, we'll take a break, come back, check in. Ian Rappaport, NFL Insider, coming up next.